What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, we are at True Automotive today. What that means is the truck is getting some stuff done to it, some bits. Those bits being a MarTec 3-link kit paired with 14-inch dual rate locked off-road coilovers. We've got Austin, the man himself, working on the truck. Right now what he's doing is measuring and taping to get flex numbers and travel numbers before we get started. So we're gonna get the forklift, come out, flex this thing out, see what we're pulling for travel, and then once we're done installing the 3-link, we'll see what we're pulling with that new kit. So let's get our measurements and get to disassembling. Alrighty, so this tire to the bottom of the fork was in the air about 32 inches. So that's our flex number. So bottom of the fork, full flex before that tire comes off the ground, the opposite side, 32 inches. So now we're gonna get started on ripping this thing apart. And at the end of this video, we'll do another flex test to see what we flex at with the new coilovers. So limiting factor on this side is a bump. So we hit bump on this side. Now the limiting factor on the opposite side is the leaf springs. So we're getting rid of leaf springs. These are way oversprung for how the truck sits right now. So that's a big limiting factor. I probably had another ½ inch to an inch, but we're gonna get this thing pulled in and start ripping it apart. So if you guys have been watching the channel before, you know that I usually have a deck system, my spare in there, some sort of rack or topper, and a tent. I took all that stuff off beforehand to make Austin's life a little bit easier as far as teardown goes. So we're still gonna have to take off tail lights, we're gonna have to take off the bed sides and everything, and basically drop the fuel tank and all of that. That's gonna be step one, is full disassembly. But before you start disassembling, you're gonna wanna start to make sure that you have everything that you need. Make sure all your bolts are going in where they're supposed to go. Put all of our heims and everything in. If you're looking for a shock mount, don't. It goes to this trailing arm. Shock towers are there. You're gonna need 20-inch limit straps. So Yoda Mafia has these made in the USA by PRP, and 24-inch brake lines. We've got everything that we need here except for one jam nut was right hand instead of left hand, so we're gonna have Nick from MarTec send that replacement out. Other than that, I think we have everything we need. This kit is really, really well thought out and really, really nice. I'm stoked to see how this thing turns out and what kind of travel numbers we get from it, but it should be rowdy. So pulling the bed is gonna be one of the first things you guys are gonna do. So what Austin is doing is loosening the filler neck for the fuel tank so that he can get it out of the way of the fiberglass for the bed to come up. After that, we'll remove leaf packs, shocks, and then we're gonna work on dropping that fuel tank to get everything kind of out of the way. And then we'll cut off the shock relocation, the shock tabs on the bottom, and then we'll remove the hangers, and today's full disassemble. So if you guys are doing this install, set at least a day for disassemble. All right, so what we're doing is every nut and bolt that comes off is getting its own Ziploc bag that's labeled so we don't lose anything when we go back to reassemble it. The tail lights, we put the tail light bolts back into the tail lights so those little inserts don't fall off when we're moving stuff around. Now what Austin is doing is we're gonna pull off this tailgate so it's not super heavy on the backside, because we don't want to damage the tailgate when we remove the bed. So once we remove the tailgate, which is super easy, 2 bolts, move the pins out of the way, and it just slides out at like this kind of an angle. Once we get this out, we should be good to start pulling the bed. Just make sure you disconnect the backup camera on the back side of the bed. That's what we're gonna do right now, and then we're gonna pull it off. So you guys can see we've got the bed separated from the frame of the truck. You'll have a bunch of wiring harnesses in here towards the back that need to be unclipped to fully remove the bed. You should have 6 bed bolts to remove, so as you can see we have that done. And now we're just going through to make sure that there's nothing else that's gonna keep us from pulling this thing off of the truck itself. So we've got, I think it looks ready to go once those back harnesses are off. We gotta get over this too, the filler neck. Almost there. All right, so as you guys can see, the bed is now off the truck. It is sitting over yonder. Austin is running through right now, making sure everything is disconnected, so zip ties are cut and any sort of clips are unclipped. And then we're gonna drop that fuel tank, get it out of the way for safety, but also we have more access to the frame if we wanna box and plate that in at that time. It's out of the way and not really a hazard while we're welding in that area. After that, we're gonna go ahead and cut off the shock towers and then the shock mounts on the axle itself, pull the leaves and just kind of keep working from there. But we're gonna run through, disconnect all the clips and everything we need to get out of the way, and then drop that fuel tank, and then we'll be on to leaves and pulling off shocks. All right, so I got a little distracted. The guys from Kingpin came over, talked lighting for the topper, and or if you guys have GFCs or anything like that, they have a really, really cool lighting solution for you guys. But Austin has got the fuel tank out, as you guys can see. Next step is probably gonna be pulling the leaf, supporting the rear axle, and then probably pull the bumps. He might leave them in. We'll see if it gets in the way of the frame kit. Cut out the shock towers and really just keep pulling stuff off. Austin removing the drive shaft. Ziploc baggies labeled with all the bolts so we know where everything goes on reinstall. Top tier technology over there. Now the drive shaft is off. Unbolt this guy here, take that little bracket off. Last thing we have to do before we can really pull this all apart is take off those brake lines, because you are going to need longer brake lines. I want to say they're 24 inches is what you need, and 20-inch limit straps. But those have to come off before we can take the rest of the stuff off, so the axle can be free from the frame and truck and everything. So now that everything's disconnected. So now everything's disconnected from the axle. We're gonna go ahead and pull the leaves. We're gonna pull the leaves first, lift up the truck on the lift, and then pull the shocks, because the shocks are gonna have more travel than the leaves are. So now that everything is free and the axle is basically standalone, we need to pull the drums to disconnect these brake lines so we can get the axle out of the way, so we have room to work in here to start doing our arms and all the pivot points really. So these have to come off, these have to come off, and then we can pull the leaves and hangers and stuff off. So now that Austin has these brake lines disconnected here, you guys can see there on both sides, and those are clamped off. He is removing the leaf packs, so off the hanger there, and that front bolt up there. This side is all done. As you can see, the axle is freestanding over here. Now we just gotta make it freestanding over there. And we go here. I will say, if you guys are looking for an aftermarket hanger for your leaf sprung truck, this DRT kit is really, really nice and goes on really well. High quality. The guy is an absolute phenomenal welder. Very well designed. The crossbar integrates very easily. If you're gonna keep your truck leaf sprung, this is a very good hanger kit. He also makes a great cab relocation kit as well. Leafs are all out, as you guys can see there. We got the hangers and crossbars out, and now Austin is taking off the locked bumps. Once those are out of the way, then it's cut these archive shock reloads out of the way. So now what we're doing, now that this is all cutting out of the way, so I was gonna get ground down, we'll prep it all later, but mocking up the frame reinforcement plate kit. So this kind of give us an idea, because we're gonna have links running across to link it up. But this is gonna reinforce your C-channel frame a lot. We've also got a Dirt King frame boxing kit that's gonna go, maybe, depending on how it fits, on the inside of the frame to box sections of it as well. So what Austin is doing now is kind of just cleaning up the frame a little bit, any surface rust, a lot of dirt. What he'll do after that is start grinding the paint off the frame. You can kind of see his Sharpie marks up there, and that's where the plate was and where he's going to be grinding and eventually tacking. So we had to do some cutting on the slider here. You guys can see that it's no longer attached to the frame, which is fine. We'll go and weld something else in there once it's all done. But the trailing arm frame bracket is getting prepped right now, since it now fits in here, for us to go ahead and tack it on in. Probably clean some of this backside a little bit, but Nick has a really good install video, so this isn't going to be a full install video, but you measure just over an inch from this circle forward, and that's where your bracket's going to be. Keep hitting my head on stuff. But if you're coming together, we start mocking up some bits now and start doing trailing arms and links and stuff here today. Austin's putting his new clamps to work. Little baby clamps. Are they what you thought you ordered? You thought they were gonna be way bigger? Tacked in she goes. All right, so Nick, you thought of everything. So Nick has put little tabs on the shock towers and on the frame plate kit. So when you're going to put these towers on, there's not measuring or anything. All you have to do is line up these tabs and hold it in place, tack it in like you just saw Austin do, and they'll be lined up. Nick, very impressed with this kit, man. This is solid. This guy's all tacked in. Our pan hard bar is welded in on that side to the plate, running across. That's going to center our axle for us. I decided to go 2-inch stretch instead of 5. If I was going to go 40s, which I'm probably never going to do, I don't want to move the axle back 5 inches and have to cut all of this out and cut more fiberglass. So did the 2-inch. I think that's going to be a good stance for the truck. Getting these all burned in here in a little bit, and then we're going to figure out, or at least mock up, our sway bar from TK1. Just keep pushing, really, but it's coming together and it's looking really good. Austin said this is one of the, if not the best 3-link kit for these trucks that he's ever seen. It's really good. As the pan hard bar tacked in place, that plate on the passenger side welded in, bar tacked in, and now his favorite part is stripping this axle, which is actually not going to be his favorite part. That's a lot to grind off. Top, bottom, times 2. All right, guys, it's been a couple days. As you can see, Austin has the trailing arms on. We've got the shocks mounted, full bump, so we can start mounting some more links and arms down here, which is what he's working on now. One thing he did find was this little ABS tab that goes right about there does have to be cut off for the mount to go on and clear. Yeah, it's starting to look like a truck again. Woo! Dang. So I don't know where I left off on this vlog, but as you guys can see, Austin is back to welding. So for reference, we had everything, and by we I mean him, had everything tacked in place, and we cycled the shocks. We left about 5 to 5.5 inches of shaft showing on the coilovers for ride height, and then we can adjust it higher or lower if we need to. Now he is getting everything burned in. So today's goal is to get the entire Dirt King frame brace rear kit burned in. Almost all of the MarTec kit looks like it's burned in. A couple spots here and there, but then it's just use steel it on everything. Put steel it on the trailing arms, the link arms, and then we were waiting for two new brackets from TK1 for our sway bar setup. We got the wrong one, but that should be here, I think, end of the week, and then it's getting close, and it's looking more and more like a truck. Once all this stuff is burned in, I'll be able to start spraying all the arms, and we'll be able to start putting stuff back in. It looks so good. And no, I'm not buying a Jeep. So Austin had to run to get a trailer. So while he does that, I am gonna wire wheel everything that's been added to get it all prepped for paint. We'll probably wipe it down with acetone after, but I've got to do the entire frame, the shock towers, the link mounts. I've got to do the actual links, the trailing arms. Today is basically, I'm playing Sherwin-Williams and going to be painting as much as possible today, and hopefully start putting this thing back together by end of day, have the axle under the weight of the truck, and then probably tomorrow, the next day, throw the bed on and start putting the deck and the topper and tent and everything back in. But let's get started. So these are wire wheeled enough, plenty enough. We're not going to take these with the DA. We're just going to hit these with some acetone and get these ready for paint. They're pretty much ready. We're not really too concerned about the trailing arms and the bars. More so going to take the DA discs to the frame to make that as smooth and as appealing as possible. But this stuff's going to be on the rocks, so spraying it if I have to is no big deal. So acetone and rock and roll, we'll go paint. I need a rag. I need a rag. Hey, 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 hey. I don't see a rag. I don't see a rag. Alrighty, a little bit of acetone goes a long way. Dancing in the moonlight. So these are going outside with me. I'm gonna go spray them all. A couple coats of steel it. Alrighty, so I have been busy wire wheeling away, painting. You see guys, came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. It's gonna be pretty much hidden anyway by the bed. This is all coming together really nicely. Austin is making new bump strike plates. So we got some 2.5 by 2.5 locked off-road hydros. We take the nitrogen out of this one to fully collapse it so we can see where our full bump would be here. You can see the shock is fully collapsed, and he's making a strike pad right now. But this thing is coming together. Panhard's in, that link is in, trailing arms are in on both sides. We're just cycling everything to make sure everything looks good, and this is, it doesn't get much better than that. You guys can't, there it is. That little gap right there, full bump. Whew, perfect. So once we cycle everything, get the bumps mounted, we'll pull these off, pull everything off so I can clean up and paint all of these mounts, and then I'll be building the shocks with the 2 springs. And then this thing will be pretty much ready for its own weight. Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry for the being away, but here we are. We have coilovers, springs in, mounted. All of the links are in, not tight yet, but bumps have their new home. Austin got this whole thing welded up and made. So he made all this from scratch, and it looks freaking killer. And seeing those coilovers in there is rowdy. We got the Yoda Mafia limit straps set. So they're about 3/4 of an inch to an inch lower than what they're gonna be. So these will stretch about an inch or so, so we limited it before this is all the way down. Now we gotta tighten everything, test everything, cycle everything, and then throw a bed on eventually. But it's looking rowdy. Quick update for you guys. This thing is pretty much together. Fuel tank is in. We're gonna check all fuel lines, and then Austin's gonna connect the battery. Unfortunately, old exhaust and new exhaust did not work. So Austin just tacked up the tip to what's already there, and that's what you get. I like it. I think it sounds good. Hell yeah, brother. Drive shaft is back in. Brake lines are done. We had to space them just a little bit, even though I think these are 21 inch. So they're not super tight anymore. Bent this bracket up a tiny bit. Joel, also known as Joel, is putting on some new shoes. He's got passenger side looks like close, then driver side, and then cover will go back on. This all looks good. This will be up higher once it's in there, but everything is paint penned. And Tony is working on bead locks right now, so we're putting longer apex valves in and the power tank monster valves, so I'll be able to air up a lot faster but still air down super quick as well with the apex valves. You can also air down with the monster valves as well. I should be driving out of here tomorrow. Been busy, but quick update for you guys. New ABS harness is in. I was having issues with the old one and it seems kind of fried, so we put a new one in that I already had. And we have some new wheel speed sensors on the way for here. This one was a little melty, probably from my exhaust. So new harnesses in, waiting on those. Gonna charge these up to 150 PSI, and then we should be good to throw the bed back on. And Tony is working on the bead locks with the power tank monster valves and the apex valves. So I use the monster valves with my power tank to air up fast, and then I'll use the apex valves to air down. So should be a good combo. So last little bits and pieces are going together. You can see we put the resi, we mounted it to the shock tower right there. I still have access to the adjusters to make compression adjustments if I need to. You can hear it clicking maybe. This is all in, everything's in. These are all gonna be tight here in a second. We'll paint pen all these bolts. The entire bed is on, you guys can see there. Now we've got to do tail lights once the resis are both in, put wheels on, finish doing that bead lock for the apex and monster valves, tailgate, and then we throw it on a forklift, see what she does. And it's all done. I guess we'll go outside and we'll flex it out and see what she does. You gotta scrub the front, lower the front down a little bit, but I got a lot of weight to add to the back and this should level out quite a bit. We're gonna take it out and throw it on the forklift. All right, check this out. Dang, it's a lot more travel than before, I'll tell you that. Look at this. Oh yeah, that's what you want. Now we'll measure and see just how much we gained from the 14-inch smoothies and the relocate with leaf packs. I think we were at 32 or 32 and a half before.
32 same spot.
40? Dang, like 8 inches more travel. That's rowdy. So there you guys have it. There is a general install on the MarTec 3-link rear. We didn't go super in depth on some of the stuff because Nick over at MarTec has a really good video, and that's how we knew how to install this, as we watched that video. But I just took it for a rip and it feels really good. I think it's gonna feel even better once we get some weight back here, waiting on some TK1 Racing sway bar arms. And then this thing will be as dialed as it's ever been. I think we gained like 8.5 inches of travel in the rear, and we actually had a little more to go, but since there's no weight in the back and it's sprung for that weight, we could actually move it a little bit on the side that was getting flexed up. So yeah, it feels really good. I'm excited to go wheel it this weekend. We're gonna do a little shakedown on red cone, but that'll wrap up this video. If you guys are looking for an install shop that, when I say does anything Toyota, they do pretty much everything Toyota, from the 3-link to long travel, superchargers, big brake kits, regular suspension, roof rack install, whatever you really need. Those are the guys. True Automotive here in Denver. Address is 930 West Mississippi Avenue, 80223 Denver, Colorado, and that's just how often I come here. I have their address memorized. But that'll do it for this video. Stay tuned for a shakedown run in red cone. Peace.